What is going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to this week's Georgia Wrestling Spotlight for the week of July the 2nd, 2025. It is good to be back. I want to thank again Bryce Cannon for filling in for me while I was gone. Nick, it's good to be back and be recording with you, brother.
Dude, I'm glad you're back. I know that sounds crazy. Like people don't get. I had this conversation with Bryce and Myron and stuff off the air. It's a totally different. When you're sitting in a different chair, that just feels different. Like how the show's done. I joked about like, hey, I did not like the first episode very much because I didn't feel like it wasn't Bryce, it was me.
Yeah.
Just changing roles is a huge thing. So one of the first things, like I said today when you were back, I'm like, I'm so glad you're back, dude. I just like the way we do it here. In this particular show. I'm just glad you're back. And hey, look, I appreciate Myron. Myron filled like Bryce did 1 week of the spotlight, and then obviously Myron did the next 3. I just felt like it was a lot to ask Bryce to sit through both shows because sometimes they're so long. So I want to appreciate, we appreciate Myron filling in on the spotlight here for the last few weeks for that matter, as well. So, but yeah, I'm just glad you're back.
Well, it is good to be back. And fans, if you're watching this, you're watching it at Patreon, patreon.com/tapped-out-pod. Maybe you're watching this as a free member. Maybe you're thinking, maybe I need to become a paid member. And if you do become a paid member at those lower levels, you're going to get early access. You're going to get access to the show notes. And then at those higher levels, obviously you're getting tapped out collectibles. One of a kind. I mean, these are things that are very, very rare. There's not like gazillions of them floating around out there. So there's never been a better time to become a patron. And if you're watching here, this show on Patreon, don't forget to go watch the Tapped In show and the Tapped Out show over on YouTube, and make sure you like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Let's jump right in to this week's Indy Rewind. Going back Friday night, Platinum Championship Wrestling down there in Conyers, Georgia, where they've been running for a long time. They had a full card. Lots, and it feels like just about every match on this show had some sort of stipulation or stakes to it. Draven defeated Giovanni Rain in a street fight. DJ Smoke is now your dealer's choice champion after defeating Travis Pay, Eddie Honcho, and CT Entertainment. The CCDL tag titles on the line. The Syndicate defeated Duncan Mitchell and Country Strong Style Jay Shaw. You had a Deep South Open challenge as King Apollo defeated Chad Skywalker and Nate Mansions. One thing that Platinum's doing this year is you have your usual cast of characters at Platinum, but we're starting to see some new names and new talents make their way up the Platinum ladder.
Yeah, and the partnership, CCDL runs there as well, so that kind of bleeding over a little bit. Deep South partnerships, I'm sure a lot of that, has to revolve around the relationship Naja has, their PCW and obviously Deep South kind of help building that bridge. So it's kind of cool to see some of that, working together thing. We talked about that a little bit on the Tapped In show as well. And so it's, like you said, it's a good way to freshen up your roster sometimes, just like bouncing some dudes back and forth.
Speaking of freshening up the roster, Rose Gold, who's been chasing that PCW women's title for quite a while, finally got the win and got that title around her waist. She is your new Platinum Championship Wrestling Women's Champion. And in the main event, it was the triple threat. Naja defending the title against Dominic Stuckey and Hunter James. And it was Naja getting the win. They had been building to this one for a while. And Naja showing that he is the measuring stick in Platinum Championship Wrestling.
There's a huge question mark and an asterisk on this show, of course, that, Dominic Stuckey, did he really quit? That's the question. And that's what we're going to have to kind of see down the road. Like, how do we Dominic Stuckey doesn't strike me as a guy who quits. That's the issue. Right. So for him to say, Najee says something we brought it. Like, it's got a lot of pull there, a lot of stroke there in PCW. So I'm curious to see what the fallout of all this is.
Well, there may be a question of whether or not Dominic Stuckey quit. There is no question that Hunter James snapped. Going as far as attacking Ref Grandpa and cutting his hair. We were both in shock when we read this earlier. And when this pops up on YouTube, I am definitely I got to know more. I got to know more of what happened, and I'd love to get Grandpa on the show to get his take on this.
Look, Hunter James has done some pretty bad things. I let a lot of stuff slide because it's wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But to put your hands on somebody who is revered as much as as Grandpa Booker T, come on, man, what's wrong with you? Like, that might be crossing the line where Hunter may just be. He may have gone too far. I've always called him, that name.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna that. I need to get him a shirt that just calls him that, and he just, that's his shirt from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, just put that right across the front. I think that'd be crazy. Platinum Championship Wrestling runs every 2 weeks. They're consistent down there on Friday nights in Conyers. Their next show is going to be July the 11th. And listen, there's a lot of fallout from this show, so it's interesting to see what's going to happen on the 11th. Also Friday night down in Royston, Georgia, ApoXalypse Pro Wrestling. The big story here, Jonathan Feltner, you saw it on social media, took basically a kendo stick beating, but it appears he's finally earned a shot to regain control of SCA. And this has been building, for most of the year, but it feels like we're going to have some resolution to this SCA versus ApoXalypse feud sometime this summer.
Yeah, and look, again, we brought that up. One of the questions asked on the Tapped In show is that we have this feel. I wanted to say I had the pleasure. I caught up with Jonathan Feltner on Saturday at his show, and boy, he looked rough. I mean, that was a lot. It goes to show you the lengths that he's willing to, the pain and whatever he's willing to put himself through. He just wants ApoXalypse gone, and he wants squared circle action returned back to, what it was. So I think that shows the dedication and, the heart that he believes in that promotion. Clearly, we have got to get there because he can't take many of these is all I'm going to say.
Another shocking turn of events. Jaden Vane and Alexander Lev of ApoXalypse defeated Xander Seabolt and Stevie Ray Frost by countout in tag team action. And then Rick Page has somehow gotten to the minds of Stevie Ray Frost's crew, who then turned on Stevie Ray Frost. So you got all this stuff with ApoXalypse, and the whole time ApoXalypse has been there, Rick Page has still been doing what Rick Page does, stirring things up. And he has done that once again. And now Stevie Ray Frost, who's somebody we've been very high on, he's been a tag team champion in ApoXalypse this year. He's been, obviously a singles champion in other places, but now finds himself from being kind of the leader of the cult to now finding himself on the outside looking in.
And not shocking that the Weasley Rick Page himself is the one that's kind of, literally weaseled his way in, and taking control. But should we expect anything less out of Rick Page, I guess is the question. He's always going to find a way to have his hands in something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, Rick Page, he has no honor. He has no scruples. He's just trying to do what's best for himself and doesn't care who he steps over to get there. You can always watch ApoXalypse Pro Wrestling on their YouTube page. They are taking this week off. It's a very rare week off for them because of July 4th, but they will be back in Royston on July the 11th. Also, Friday night, Disruptor Pro Wrestling was in Buford, Georgia. And we're starting to see, again, you got your normal cast of characters there in Disruptor, but seeing some new faces as well. Randy Wentworth defeated Jonathan Moody in singles action. Matt Sells defeated Mad Dog Josh Powers, who's coming down from South Carolina. Dave Stage, good to see Dave Stage back in town, defeated Robert Colon. Vari Morales, friend of the show, defeated Rico Gonzalez, but it was by disqualification after Alan Angels interfered. Zicky Dice defeated Big Ben Bishop in singles action, although Zicky had quite a bit of help. And they're actually going to have a rematch, and it's going to be a tuxedo match. So I'm putting that on my calendar. And Alan Angels defeated Tim Miller by disqualification. So Tim Miller's still your Disruptor heavyweight champion. Where is Ben Bishop going to find a tuxedo that fits him?
Listen, the dude's classy. I wouldn't be shocked if the dude's got a custom made tux hanging up in his closet somewhere. I get it. He's big trouble and he's a partier, but he strikes me as a guy. You've seen his social media. He's got a lady, so I mean, he's probably taking her out to a nice dinner or an event here or there, and so I'm not. He doesn't surprise me that he's got a tuxedo hanging up in the closet. Zicky Dice, on the other hand, doesn't strike me as a tuxedo guy. He strikes, if he does, it's going to be colorful, to say the least. But those two, look, Zicky knew he was outgunned. Had some, I don't want to call it muscle. I'd rather call it some goons that helped him out and, picked up the win. And just Ben wasn't having any of it. He called him out right there after the match. I want a match. And, of course, he's outlandish, Zicky Dice, for a reason. He had to put something colorful into the equation. And, of course, throws out the tuxedo match. The problem is he didn't realize that Ben didn't care. Ben wanted the rematch, whatever it takes to get his hands on him. He's all in. He's all in the mix. But like you said, look, you brought it up, man. I want to get into the Vari Morales, Alan Angels with the Tim Miller on the periphery, which is crazy to hear that the champions kind of like both of these guys feel like they deserve to be, and both have legitimate cases. I hate to say it. They both do, to be the champion. Tim Miller did what, Money in the Bank, whatever champion, he was the golden turnbuckle, did the right thing and cashed in at an opportune moment to become that champion. But now he finds him caught in the crosshairs of a feud that is about his title, but yet these two guys have the personal issues with Vari and Alan Angels going against each other, interfering in each other's matches, brawl it, fight, whatever. But let me tell you something. We all know how much we love and respect, and we're big, huge fans of Vari Morales. This version of Alan Angels, the one that's by any means necessary, by hook or by crook, whatever, he's going to do whatever it takes to capture the gold. That's a dangerous Alan Angels because that guy wins a lot. And, I'll kind of leave it there. But those two clearly are heading onto a path where they're just going to collide. And unfortunately for Tim Miller, I think he's kind of in the orbit of this feud. But I will tell you this. Not often do I, say things like this. And Alan Angels, super talented, super fast, super, skilled in the ring. I think Tim Miller opened a lot of people's eyes with how he hung with Alan Angels on Friday.
Yes.
I get it. He's the champion and whatever. But he went in there and I had a lot of people going like, and I'm like, exactly. And I'm going to leave it at
that. The only place that you can see Disruptor is live. They don't have their videos out yet. They do record their shows. But if you want to see this action and you want to see how this all plays out, you're going to have to get a ticket. And their next show is going to be July 25th. So coming up here in a couple of weeks. So make sure you follow Disruptor, especially on Instagram. That's where most of their stuff is. And Disruptor continues to disrupt Georgia wrestling by doing some new and unusual things. Because can't remember the last time we had a tuxedo match in Georgia or the Carolinas. Saturday, let's move to Saturday, June 28th. Bullpen Pro Wrestling was down in Villa Rica, Georgia. Trey Jordan defeated BK Bennett in singles competition. Eddie Honcho defeated Cody Wyndham. Young man that we talked about on the Indy or the Tapped In show, JT Paradox, he and Lamar Phillips went to a no contest. This thing just went everywhere, all over the building. And it's going to be interesting what is next for those guys and if they can find a building or ring to contain them and let them settle this finally.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much to absorb over Bullpen Pro Wrestling over the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you've been able to keep up with the they've got the new I'm looking because I want to make sure it was actually Roanoke. This is on me, not you, by the way. I think I'm trying to find the poster. They were not. This show was not in Villa Rica. Sorry. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The whole mess of, as you probably see, I don't know if you saw Zach turn on Bull. He is, in the bullpen match last week, he has cost Bull control of bullpen. I love the fact that, look, we're going to peel this curtain back a little bit. Something Bryce and I praised them on, and I wanted to get your take because this is something me and you discuss on a regular basis.
Uh-huh.
We commended them last week that Bull Buchanan did a live video on his Facebook channel and explained very thoroughly, listen, I can't wrestle. I don't get to make the decisions in the company anymore, but I own the company. It is still my company.
Right.
I will be there at the ticket stand. I will be there in the concession stand. I'll be there as a fan. It's my company and I make money, so we're going to do the right thing. He did, however, get to appoint somebody to kind of be the matchmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see where I'm going with this? Like, Cowboy Johnny Brown came in. He's going to lay down the law. Bull is out of the equation. He can't be in control. He can't be in the ring. He can't do any of those things. But this is why he's going to be in the building.
Right.
He still makes a living off of this show. So he's going to promote it on social media. He is going to, do everything in his power to make it draw money still. How refreshing. Let's leave it at that. It made sense. They explained it. As Bryce led, they connected the dots.
Yes.
And said this is kind of the why. Now, he brought out Johnny, as you could probably see here on the, he brought him out. He's setting the table. They're making some matches. Kudos and good job. Like, we didn't have to wonder, why is he here? Why is this here? All of those things to me matter. But even in all of the refreshed, and we got the leader, we got whatever, how do we end the show? A brawl that just clears out the locker room and, goes to a no contest, JT Paradox, Lamar Phillips, and, everything just kind of just completely goes into chaos. That's Bullpen Pro Wrestling for you.
Yes, Bullpen Pro Wrestling. They're always doing something to hook you and bring you back. And their next show is coming up actually this weekend, July the 5th. But then they've also made a big announcement. July 26th, they got this big battle royal. And make sure you're following them on social media and you can see what's next for Bullpen Pro Wrestling. We talked on the other show, which promotion's getting ready to break through. Bullpen Pro Wrestling got to be a part of that conversation. Also Saturday night, Georgia Championship Wrestling was in Buckhead, Georgia. You guys went to this show, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Chop Top. Is this the one that's at the
Gotta Be Rolling Skate?
Gotta Be Rolling Skating Rink? What was the atmosphere like down there?
It is literally an old roller skating rink. I mean, it still had the crazy colored carpet, the little thick with the little side on there with the seats and everything. I get it. I always tell everybody, and I say this with the most affection that I possibly can. I tell people, Sometimes you go to an old school wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
It is a small country town. It is small, you know. I mean, I from my understanding, they draw more people than within the city limits of this building. So they know their audience there, and boy, did they give it to them, and the crowd was into it. And we're going to get into some of what happened, but it's a very old school wrestling vibe with all the affection that I possibly can throw into that.
Well, you definitely picked a good night to get down there. Jerry Nelms defeated Chris Nelms by disqualification. You had Big Andy and Jacob Ashworth defeating Scott Mason and Xander Seabolt in tag team competition. And then we had 2 title changes. Nick Halen,
Three.
Oh, 3. Oh, yeah, because Chop Top defeated Pat Roach, and the GCW tag team titles were on the line in that one. Kind of break that down for us, how that came about.
So, Dead Man's Hand, Chop Top, and Jerry Nelms were supposed to face Pat Roach and Grillo, of obviously the Crusade. They were the tag team champions. Grillo couldn't make it. Listen, Grillo's a busy man. He's on TV every week. Things come up. He's got commitments. With AEW, etc., Ring of Honor. So he's a busy man. So, but hey, Pat Roach, being the champion that he is, came out there and was like, "Hey, can't do the titles. Sorry, my partner's not here. I came to let y'all know he's not here." The GM, Tim Rice, had said, "Well, you can either forfeit the titles, or you can it can be a handicap match, or it can be a one-on-one." And of course, they agreed Chop Top would be one-on-one with Pat Roach, and a stunning upset. I mean, I won't lie, I get it. Pat Roach, he's a wrestler's wrestler. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people don't like him, and he makes it easy not to like him.
Mm-hmm.
But he did take the loss, and Dead Man Hand is your new GCW tag team champions.
Yeah, that one kind of came out of nowhere. Another one, Nick Halen, not typically on the GCW roster, but came into town and defeated Shawn Nelson for the Georgia heavyweight title. How surprised were you to see Nick Halen at this thing?
Listen, how can I put this? There's a reason we were there. One of those reasons is Nick Halen was strolling through town. Hey, he's strolling through town, and he's, just going to pick up he's going to pick up another title while he's out there. Listen, I was a little surprised. I was, again, first time in that building.
Uh-huh.
That fan base absolutely loves Shawn Nelson. The reaction was crazy. One of the best reactions of the night, obviously. But they went home a little heartbroken when Nick Halen just kind of strolled in there and in one night took their title and took it home with him. So says everything about Nick Halen, right? I tell people all the time. Sometimes guys don't get booked because that gets your champions beat. Mistake number one, maybe.
And then, in a shocking turn of events, Sam Hansen defeated Jay Shaw for the Brass Knuckles title. But it was what happened afterwards as Sam Hansen left Jay Shaw bleeding. He was handcuffed. And we just saw a side of Hansen that we have not seen before. I know you've at times taken this young man under your wing. What in the world is going on with him?
Look, we've seen this version, the not happy, but again, I want to stress when Hansen is talking, he made a point. I had a conversation with him, and he was like, they need to understand this is the fans' fault. This is not Hansen's like, hey, I didn't cheat because it was a last man standing match. There were no rules. Anything goes. He didn't cheat. It wasn't Jay's fault. It's the fans who got behind Jay Shaw.
Mm.
They stood up and they tried to push him to the point that he could get into a match like this with a Hansen.
Mm.
And yet they didn't push him hard enough. And the reason these are Hansen's words, folks. I just want to be clear. Jay Shaw failed because the people weren't strong enough for him.
Interesting.
And Jay Shaw needs to understand what Hansen has said the whole time about these fans. They will push you to do things that you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't do this for these fans because they don't care. And they're not going to be there for you. And this was Hansen saying, I told you so. Now, here's the question. How does he respond to this? Like, it was a brutal loss. Like, how do you respond to that? That is the challenge, you know. And by the way, it's not just country strong Jay Shaw. Shawn Nelson, same question.
Yeah.
Nick Halen came into your house on first night, bam, and beat you. Like, how do they respond? That is a huge question mark.
Well, we're going to see how these guys respond. Their next show for GCW is July 26th. You can see their shows on YouTube. Make sure you're following them on social media to see what's next for GCW. Coastal Empire Wrestling was live in Savannah, Georgia over the weekend. Flying Fro Michael Walker defeated Sheriff Scratch to become the new #1 contender for the Coastal Empire title. Young Mighty Joe defeated Chris Taylor by submission. Kevin Cantrell, there's a name we're starting to hear more of, defeated Tyler Shoup also by submission. Bryce Cannon, the comeback tour continues as he defeated Hakeem Young. Hakeem Young was his opponent, picked by Dax Anthony. And in the next match, Bryce Cannon got one over on Dax Anthony by booking him in a handicap match with Zach Mosley and Cornelius Pepperbottom. Tommy Mars defeated Randall Reno III. I mean, this is such talent on this show. Tad Skywalker defeated Tyler the Wall Stevens. I consider that. Would you consider that an upset? Skywalker over the Wall?
At Coastal, no. But yes, I know what you're saying. But yes, in this particular say, no, I would not. I'm going to interject before you get to the main.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about, because here's the thing. That's a lot of mains that you could argue.
Yes.
I will tell you one of Coastal's strengths. I'm looking at this card. Story. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
They do a really, really good job that every match matters in some form or fashion. And that's I don't know if I can give anybody more of a compliment than that every match has a purpose.
Well, weren't they the Bookers of the Year last
year? They were Promoter of the Year.
Yeah, Promoter of the Year. Who was Booker of the Year last year? I don't even remember. Anyway, they won. What we're trying to say is Coastal won some well-deserved awards last year, and they have built on that. They have not rested on any of their laurels. And in the main event, it was Hunter James retaining the Coastal Empire title over Jay Alpha Miller. The building was sold out. Now you got Flying Fro. He's next in line for Hunter James. You got Bryce Cannon and Dax Anthony. Now they're set up for a tables match. And then Legends of the Lowcountry 2 is coming up. That's July the 26th. You can watch all their shows on YouTube. And yeah, Coastal Empire continues to make waves in what is legitimately South Georgia, and just doing great things down there.
Look, we had conversations about the Power 5, and last week we did the promotions edition, and I look, they're making their case on a show-to-show basis of why they're right there. They're right there, making their case month in and month out, talking about the stories, hanging from the rafters crowds. I mean, all of the above. And by the way, one of the things they also do is they put out real good quality work rate matches, which some audiences care. I always tell people the Buckhead show, that wasn't what they cared about. They want emotion and they want feeling, and that's what they're for. It's wrestling. Some promotions, you got to put the work in or they're just not going to react. Had a great conversation with somebody like this past week that were like, you can tell. And in some promotions, it's like you can go out there and tear the house down and those fans don't care.
Right.
But this is clearly not the case there. They care.
You have to know your audience. You have to be adaptable. And to me, a great test of a good wrestler is if you can spend an hour putting your match together in the back and know on your ring entrance that, like, hey, what we have planned is not going to work. We're going to have to call it in the ring and do something different. Do you have the ability, the self-awareness to do that? And I think Coastal seems to be, I mean, a good learning place right now. It's just one of they're just doing some great things and hitting on all cylinders. Speaking of hitting on all cylinders, doing some good things, One Fall Wrestling was in Jefferson, Georgia. KJ Impala and JD Inc. defeated Dennis Glass and CJ Montana. Jack Jameson defeated QT Marshall in singles action. That feud, you want to talk about a feud need to be blown off. There's one. Elijah Drago defeated Parker Lee and Michael Solar to retain the One Fall title. Isis Reed defeated Hannah Hera and Riley Judah in a triple threat match. And Vari Morales and Brady Booker defeated Warden and Trevor Blackwell in tag team competition. Elijah Drago continues to dominate during this title reign. He has made, as the inaugural champion, has made that title mean something. We'll talk a little bit more later on what's next for Jameson and QT Marshall. These guys just don't like each other.
Can you blame them? I mean, have you met Jack Jameson? Yeah, we have. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, I've that man has put his hands on me before. And
that's my point. That's one of my point. That's the entire point. Yeah.
So again, One Fall Wrestling, again, they don't have videos out yet. You can only see them live in their next show, July 5th, coming up this weekend. We'll have more on that. Not one shows, but two. Sunday, Deep South Wrestling was back in Atlanta, Georgia. Hunter James got a win over CT Entertainment. Austin Towers retained the GIPW title, defeating Professor Payne. Ryan Rembrandt defeated James Storms and Matt Sells. He is now the inaugural New Round Brewing champion. So that's a big win for Ryan Rembrandt. Nagicism defeated Jake Johnson, and I believe this is Christopher Prince, maybe. And Nagicism now is your new Deep South Wrestling Heavyweight champion. Nagicism racking up titles wherever he goes.
Yeah, it's Apollo. Sorry, my bad. Apollo. I gotta get better.
Oh, Apollo Prince. Sorry,
Apollo Prince. He was their champion, and he dropped that title to Naja. You're gonna hear more about Naja. Like, there's gonna be a little more of a conversation. So I'm gonna put a pin in it right now, and we'll come back to Naja here shortly.
DJ Smoke and Stunt Marshall retained the tag team titles, defeating Sauronaro and Caleb Conley. There's a tag team I didn't know I needed, with Sauronaro and Caleb Conley.
They were the former champions down there, I believe. And before we go too far, listen, you're not a wrestling podcast at all over the last week. If Stunt Marshall's name comes up on your podcast and you don't ask the question, did you see the slap video?
I did see the slap. I had started following Power Slap. Cooper Housley, who's a wrestler out of South Carolina, has been on there, and it is a guilty pleasure of mine. And I did see that. And really, one of the things that made Stunt's fight go viral was the Ronda Rousey reaction.
The
You
reaction.
want to talk about right place at right time. And dude, he that was one of the more brutal knockouts I've seen watching this.
If Stunt Marshall, if that's not his finish, like he's got to have a match where that's a finish, where he's behind somebody, kind of and they turn around and pow, and they're out. Like that's got to be a finish stunt.
Right. Have you ever done? It was a big thing a couple of years ago. The tortilla challenge, where you put water in your mouth, and we did it at camp. You basically put water in your mouth.
I've seen it, but I've just never done it.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, this guy named Tony, he and I were going against each other, and he just slaps me with a tortilla. But he hit me. He made me see stars, and he wasn't trying to. It's just he hit me in the right place, and I've had probably 3 concussions in my life, so I may be a little more. I mean, there's probably people that'll say I got CTE or something. Anyway, but I'm going to tell you, when I'm watching Power Slap, it's like every other sport is trying to cut down on head injuries, and then you got Power Slap, which just doesn't seem to care.
It just screams like every fight, whatever you want to call it, is like, okay, who's concussed first and goes down. That's what it almost seems like. Right.
Absolutely. So kudos to Stunt Marshall, multi-sport star. Gemma Jules, kudos to her. She is the new, I believe this is first ever Deep South Wrestling Women's Champion.
It's been like 40 years.
Oh, right.
It was the old school promotion. Yeah, but I mean, yes. So the answer is yes.
Anyway, big crowd there for Deep South. They've been running, Georgia, now been running South Carolina, and doing great things. And their next show is going to be July 19th at the Gwinnett Stripers game. I don't know if that's going to be a full show or just a couple of matches. You can find out more details on their social media. And then their next regular show is going to be July the 7th at one of the typically New Realm Brewings where they've been running. So again, Deep South Wrestling, make sure you're following them. That leads us to who won the week.
I want to ask you this because this is one of our favorite segments of the week.
Mm-hmm.
We have a name on the list.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, after rattling through that, is there anybody who challenges that person in this spot?
The only, not a person. There is a promotion that I think had a good week, because they outdrew the whole town. But I think the name you've got on here is someone that definitely had a great week. I think the name we've got is the good one. That's the one.
Yeah, it's got to be your winner, and it's Nazism.
Yes,
you just brought it. We literally just covered it. He's the new Deep South champion. He retained his PCW champion in controversial fashion, yet still retained the PCW championship.
And both of those matches were triple threat matches, which are harder to win because you don't have to take the pinfall or the submission to lose the match.
Yeah.
So the fact that in one weekend he's winning, 2 of the major titles. Well, he's been the platinum champ for a while.
I literally thought you were about to break into Steiner math and explain to me why what his odds. Because what if his odds were to win one, but the odds of winning both of them in the same weekend have to be astronomically.
There's got to be some math there. Narcissism, been around a long time. Wrestler of the year, really starting to get that recognition, but it's also starting to play out in titles. And like he's been platinum champion for quite some time, and now who's going to step up and take that Deep South title from him?
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, the platinum, the PCW show was Hoochie Mania, a show named essentially after him, essentially. So I mean, it was his weekend for sure. I think it's without question, and I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that are going, look, Hunter James is a problem of his in PCW.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't shock me because Hunter James is in Deep South as well. Does he become a recurring problem across the state? Could be.
Very, very interesting. But anyway, Nagicism, hands down, our winner of the week. Now let's move into, this is a little bit lighter this week, making the drives. As far as we know, on our, save your cards and letters for somebody else, but we have 3 shows this weekend that we have of record. 2 of them are by One Fall Wrestling, happening at the same time. The first one, One Fall Wrestling presents Freedom Fights at Freedom Brew and Shine. They're in Cumming, Georgia. The bell time is 7 o'clock. 2 matches announced already. Elijah Drago defending that One Fall title against Vari Morales. I see this and I am thinking, how do I get to Cumming, Georgia on Saturday night?
You get to my house.
Get to your house.
Get to my house. We'll figure it out from there.
This is contrast in styles. It's a test for Elijah Drago of his skill. And it's also Vari Morales showing why we think so highly of him.
Yeah.
He's wrestling a young guy who's tall, big. I mean, this is the kind, like, this is a proving ground match for both these guys.
And here's the crazy thing of this weekend. We're just a few weeks away.
Yes. Summer
Stage. We Drago, Booker, One Fall Championship, Center Stage, Atlanta, Georgia. But yet, literally in the stretch of a weekend, that entire match can be complete. And here's the thing. It's not outside the realm of possibility. We'll get into the other half of the equation. But how about Vari Morales with an opportunity to say, if I take this title from Drago, I go to Center Stage. I main event Summer Stage. I'm the guy at the top. And we think he's got the capabilities for sure. So on one hand, you're going to sit there and go like, we absolutely feel without a question that this guy can be your champion. And with every, take your personal opinions aside, I've said it week after week after week since winning that title, Drago doesn't take his foot off the gas at all. Mm-hmm. We talked about him defending the title, last weekend. It just seems like every match he is absolutely, without question, not afraid to put this title on the line.
Listen, Elijah Drago in his first run as a singles champion, to my knowledge, has answered every challenge. Not just taking the matches, winning the matches. He's not a Ric Flair who's got the 4 horsemen watching his back, and he's been doing it on his own.
Can I say something that's this is gonna really draw some ire? In 1 month, Drago will probably defend that One Fall title more than some champions in a year.
Yeah, some champions in Georgia would fail the one defense every 30 days test.
Look, we'll give them a pass. Some promotions run every 2 months. We're giving you a pass. We're just saying, literally, there's a champion that will defend his title in the month. At June has passed. So let's go. I bet you in the month of June, he defended that title more than some champions, but given the ones that could make it a calendar year as champion, but make it, you know what I'm saying? And everybody's like, oh, he runs, they run more often, which means he defends more often. Oh, he's defended it against Vari Morales, guy that was in the finals.
Right.
multiple guys in the finals that he was up against. He's wrestled, I don't know, don't knock him, because I've seen him defend against champions at other promotions.
Yes.
So if they're nobodies, what does that say about the other promotion? And that's their champion. So there's a lot of layers to that. It's not like he's not wrestling nobodies.
It's almost as if, Nick, I don't know, One Fall Wrestling is building to a huge show in Atlanta, Georgia, and I don't know, maybe they want their title to mean something for that show. And what makes your title mean something than your champion defending against all comers multiple times a week?
Yeah. And the other match, yeah. And also, by the way, I'm heavily leaning to the Cummings show over that, just for that match alone.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I don't know if Mark Davidson, dude, has come out of nowhere for Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not booking Mark Davidson, I'm not really sure what you're missing.
Yeah.
Grillo, you can't say that, because everybody now, he's starting to get booked everywhere because they're starting to see the talent. If you missed Grillo and you're not familiar, tune into TNT and TBS, Dynamite, Collision, Ring of Honor. You might see him there. That match should be outstanding as well.
So that's going to be a good one. At the very same time, Saturday night, One Fall Wrestling is going to be in Watkinsville, Georgia, at the South Main Brewing Company. Again, the bell time 7:00. And the big one here is QT Marshall and Brady Booker. Brady Booker is putting his title shot at Summer Stage. He is putting it on the line against QT Marshall. And because when Brady Booker earned that, QT was eliminated from that battle royal by Jack Jameson, who had already been eliminated. And Brady Booker wants to go into Summer Stage. He does not want an asterisk by it. He's like, you know what? I don't want anyone to be able to debate me getting this title shot, me being champion. I want to erase any discussion. And so he's putting that on the line against QT Marshall. And QT Marshall, who's already booked for a match with the Gun Club against the Frat House because of his ongoing issues with Jack Jameson. Here's the question, Nick. If you're One Fall Wrestling management, do you have a security guy who's like, hey, you need to shadow Jack Jameson to make sure that this match has a clean finish, a clear winner, and that Jack Jameson doesn't screw up anything or stick his nose where it doesn't belong?
You better do something, because if I was a betting man, I would tell you that their issues, I'm not sure how. Is it teacher-student jealousy? I'm not real sure. Who knows? But if I would very much do something to try to keep Jack Jameson out of this equation. But listen, I get it. QT was robbed. I was there. I saw it in person. He's going to try to get an opportunity. Kudos. Listen, I'm going to say this with all love and affection for Brady Booker. Maybe not the smartest thing to do here as far as putting your title shot on the line. Right. I admire it. I understand where it's coming from, but still maybe not the smartest thing to do. You earned it. Just ride that thing out, because you could have won this title and give QT the first shot, something like that. I don't know. But again, we admire the fact that he doesn't want that asterisk, and that, but that's also probably, that's the athlete, that's the competitor, that's, that piece of him that he's just got to I don't want any questions. I want to be the best, period. So I respect it. Just keep your head on a swivel, all parties involved, because anytime Jack Jameson's lingering around could probably be an issue here, especially with the hard feelings between him and QT.
Again, we just mentioned everything Elijah Drago's doing to elevate that title. And when your number one contender is also making everything about the title, it only makes the title that much more important. And how refreshing, Nick, is it to see a promotion? And again, a new promotion. A returning promotion this year. New champion, but treating their heavyweight title like it is the most important thing in the promotion. Whereas there are other promotions that have so many titles, things seem to get watered down, or it's everything's convoluted. And with One Fall Wrestling, in this case, it's just clear cut. This is what we're fighting for. This is why we're
Mm-hmm.
fighting. And that's all you can ask for in wrestling is tell me why these two guys are fighting and why I should care. And One Fall's done that.
Yeah. And it's, what we're heading all past clearly are pointing to summer stage, right? Everything's being built and playing out to this massive show. Again, get your tickets. It's on their social media pages. I think I said this on Tapped In. If you're a fan of indie wrestling in Georgia, you should be at this show. If you're a fan of, I just can't imagine One Fall. If you're a wrestler, you're whatever. If you're not booked on that day or whatever, that's where you should be to check out this show, because wrestling would be awesome if this was successful and this became an annual thing. That's just my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then finally on Saturday night, Bullpen Pro Wrestling is having their Fan Appreciation Night at Gold Dust Park in Billerica, Georgia. Matches such as JT Paradox and AJ Black taking on Zach Buchanan and Jackson Slade. J Rod's taking on Cody Wyndham. Alexander Lincoln versus Jacob Ashworth. Brad Lynch and Shane Knowles versus the Wonder Boys. And as we talked about earlier, new general manager Johnny Brown is in the house. And who knows what kind of who knows how he is going to lay down the law. But for fans of Bullpen Pro Wrestling, this is the time to go out, support them, and you're going to see a fantastic show.
Yeah, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe because of Fan Appreciation Night, all the tickets are going to be $10. So if I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll get an email, but I'm almost positive that is the case. So I mean, it's a great time if you haven't seen a Bullpen show and you're down in that area in Villarica. That's kind of right there in their stomping grounds. Absolutely, check it out. I think the super fans are 15, maybe. They have a program called the super fans. It might be 15, but I think the regular tickets are just $10. So go check them out, Villarica. And like you said, there's just so much fallout. There's so much change going on. Look, is this going to be the first time that we're going to see Zach Buchanan back since, basically super kicking his dad, and costing him the match? Maybe there's fallout there. I don't know if you've seen this Andrew Lincoln kid. He's a big, massive dude. Him versus Jacob Ashworth is going to be cool. Bullpen's on fire, and it's like they're becoming one of those. This is like again, it's not uncommon to see 2-3 consecutive weeks where they're running a show because they've kind of created that pocket over West Georgia, East Alabama,
Right.
and they've got a nice little territory kind of they've built up over there.
Yeah, again, Bullpen in their second year, man, they've done some really great things. And we've talked about this before. Bullpen and One Fall are just playing by their own rules. And they did not check with the Georgia wrestling gatekeepers about how they should operate and what they should do, and they've just done their thing and been very successful. Whether that's recognized by some or not, we know the truth, and that is they've drawn fans. They've done really well, and they're just continuing to build amazing momentum. Well, fans, again, like we said, it's a holiday weekend, not as many shows as usual, but there's only one place to find out all the comings and goings of Georgia independent wrestling. That's right here on the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight. And the only place to watch us is at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. So if you're here and watching, we really do appreciate it. And you can, in the app, in Patreon app, you can hit that like button. You can comment. You can send us a question. You can ask us a variety of things. And again, don't forget, if you become a paid member, you're going to get those show notes. You're going to get shows early, and you could get those tapped out collectibles at the higher levels. Lots going on this week on the main stage of wrestling. Nick, what are you and Myron talking about this week?
Blew a lot of Night of Champions talk. I can go ahead and tell you because there were so many layers to that between the SmackDown in Saudi Arabia, the Night of Champions on Saturday. By the way, we're probably going to get into the deep love of the 1 o'clock PLE because I got to watch the entire PLE, then go to the show in Buckhead. I got to go to the Georgia Classic wrestling show that night, literally, because I got to watch it all. It was over by 4. Didn't have to leave the house until right at a little after 5. Dude, that's awesome. I'm like, I need more of that. And then Raw, 6 p.m. on a Monday. It was at 6 p.m. last Monday, so I watched that at it was like 6:30. I was like, oh yeah, Raw's on. So I jumped in and started watching it. I was like, I completely forgot. So there'll be a lot of that conversation, and obviously going into it, we're probably, because they taped SmackDown right after. I had a question: do we spoil things because the show will come on before SmackDown, but the spoilers are going to be out there everywhere? Like, what do we do?
Right. Yeah. Anyone who wants, you just say spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, and then if they want to keep watching, then they can if they want to. That's kind of how I look at it. So, anyway, spoiler alert. Come back, fans. We'll have more wrestling content for you next week on the Tapped In Indy Show, which you can watch on YouTube and right here at the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight. So, for Nick McDaniel and all the great folks here at the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, I'm Heath Mulligan. We'll see you at the matches.